Okay, good morning. It is just after 7:30 in the AM, pre-dawn on Sunday, October 13th, 2019, in the full moon of Awakatsikitsum, the deer moon, our last of the summer lunar cycles this year. It doesn't look like summer out there at all, but what are you gonna do? Woke up this morning, all alone in bed. Well, not entirely. I had Polly with me, my Polly dog. But Chelsea and the kids went out to stay at her folks' place last night. She has a 12-hour shift. She's already started this morning. She's already been on shift a half hour. The kids wanted to go visit their grandparents. And I've got a walk and talk to go do at Spokane. So, yeah, I'm alone. Or I was alone for the night, but Chelsea will be home later on this evening. In the meantime, I'll see what kind of shenanigans I can get into. So I'm going to start off the day with a brand new shirt. I picked up this Raglan shirt. I wanted to show it. I was thinking, you know, every morning I visit 7-Eleven and get my 55-cent coffee refill. And I'm really bad. I put a little bit of the pumpkin spice latte stuff in there, or some of the English toffee or something. And then I noticed they got this rack with all the sunglasses and everything, but they've actually got clothing on that rack. They've got like hoodies and hats, and I noticed they had these long sleeve shirts. So I checked them out, and it's actually Slurpee's 50th anniversary. And as I looked at the other clothing there, it's all like 50th anniversary, you know, clothing stuff. And I kind of got joking with Chelsea one day. I was like, I wonder if I should do like a series of gas station clothes reviews, you know, like see if I can get a whole wardrobe right out of the gas stations. But anyway, I ended up buying the shirt. It was 20 bucks. You know, I like the colors, and I thought it would just be a fun thing, and to see what kind of quality of shirt 7-Eleven puts out for Slurpee's 50th birthday. So I'm gonna wear this today, going into my Sunday. Looks pretty decent. Let's put it on and see how it feels. I don't like this tag, for one thing. The tag kind of like, you know, sticks up off the back, so I'm gonna rip that off right to begin with. I've just totally like deflowered this thing, so as a collector's item, it's no good. But let me put it on and see how it fits. Yeah, I know. I went running yesterday. That was 2 Saturdays in a row. And, but this time it didn't work out so well. For the second time ever in my barefoot running career of a decade or so, I totally smashed my one of my toes. I did this once before. I did it during a what do they call it? The coulee cactus crawl race. I was running barefoot, and I was coming off of a rough terrain road and crossing a regular paved road, and then back onto the deer trail. And some reason going off that curb, I caught the end of my toe and my big toe, and it rolled under my foot, you know, and got scraped up on the sidewalk at the same time. So this is what happened yesterday as well. It sucked. I still ran an additional 4 kilometers on it, regardless, after the injury occurred, and then it like turned really black and blue in the evening. But Chelsea stopped home before going to her parents' house yesterday, gave me this big horse pill of a pain and de-inflammatory thing, and it just like knocked out. I feel like I could almost go running right now. Anyway, the Slurpee shirt, I think it looks pretty good. It has a nice fit. If I didn't have the growing belly issue, I would really enjoy the shirt. But yeah, so far so good, and I'm gonna wear it into my day. Off to Spokane. Let's go do a walk and talk, see what's going on down there. Widgeons. American widgeons. That's what's new, or rather who's new here at Spokane this morning. Other than the water being defrosted, I guess. That's the new phenological event. And in previous years, the widgeons were always the last of the waterfowl, the migrating waterfowl, to pass through before the winter species started arriving. I think we still got a couple of weeks of waterfowl migration that are going to be going on here, maybe 3, even 4 weeks. Yesterday, I was working with a couple of guys, videographers from the Smithsonian. They had come to visit maybe a month ago and done some rattlesnake footage with me, and then they wanted to get aerials of the place that I had taken them, the Box Canyon on the Blood Reserve. They wanted to get aerials of it for part of their film, and so brought in a drone pilot, and really cool little drone operated by this guy using a headset so that he can see through the drone's vision. And they let me wear that headset for one of the flights. It was pretty awesome. I would love to have a toy like that. But yeah, did a little drone flying on the reserve, and then we still had a lot of the day left, so I asked them if they'd be interested in snow geese, because 2-3 nights ago, or evenings ago, I saw and heard snow geese passing over our house. So I know that they're massing, and I know, you know, one of the places where they congregate in big numbers is Tyrrell Lake, just by the US border above the Sweetgrass Hills. So took them out to go to Tyrrell Lake, and sure enough, the snow geese are starting to congregate there, but they're nowhere near the numbers they're going to be. The numbers that we saw yesterday are probably like 1/5, 1/6 of what I expect to arrive there over the next couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens here at Spokane. I haven't taken a real head count of how many widgeons are here, but there's several widgeons here, and also some mallards and stuff. This morning as we walked in, there was one lone goose. Actually, there was a flock out here in the wide South Pool, but back by the Beaver Lodge, there was just this one lone goose. And it got me to thinking maybe there's something wrong with this goose, because the flock took off from the South Pool, but that one just stayed there. I think it had maybe some emotional attachment. I was worried that maybe it was an injured goose, because I've seen that in the past too, or a young one that just didn't learn how to fly in time and its family left it. I've seen that happen. But in this case, you know, I've taken a walk back out here to eyeball whether the lone goose is around, and I'm not seeing it, so I think she flew off. Probably she had an emotional attachment to that scent mound. Maybe that was the goose that nested on that mound this year. Maybe it was one of the ones born there this year. I saw in the past, as I said, an occasion where a goose just didn't learn how to fly in time, and so its parents and 2 siblings left, and then it was here another maybe week and a half, learned how to fly and took off on its own. But shortly after, maybe a couple days after that, I saw 2 geese arrive, who I think were probably either the siblings or the parents. 2 geese arrive. One of them positioned itself on top of the Beaver Lodge and just honked, what, you know, for about 20 minutes, while the other one swam back and forth through the pond. I think they were obviously looking for their family member. They were going to take him away to where he needed to go, but he wasn't there anymore. So something was happening this morning with the lone goose on the scent mound. I'm sure there was a reason that the goose was here. It's probably a very personal reason. Anyway, not much else to report for here at Spokane. There's still some, what do we got? Kingfishers, or not kingfishers, but Why is the name escaping me? Killdeers. There's still some killdeers around in the shallows. The water has risen for sure from what it was, you know, a few weeks back when you could basically walk across this wide south pool. So it always does that before the winter ice sets in. The river rises a little bit. Might go out to the wilderness park this afternoon, see what's shaking out that way. Haven't spotted a turtle for a bit, but I haven't been out here in an afternoon time. There's probably still turtles rising if you come here during the warmest hours of the day. Anyway, yeah, maybe I'll swing by the house and then head over to the wilderness park. I got time to play today. Yeah, just back at the house now momentarily. I stopped on the way here to grab some eats from the grocery store, and I'm going to show you what I bought. It's actually Canada's Thanksgiving today. So, of course, my mind is on the traditional, like turkey and yams and cranberry sauce and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to have a family dinner this year, so I figured I'd just buy stuff to make some like really cool turkey sandwiches and maybe a little extras too. So first thing coming in the door to the grocery store, they had pumpkin pie. So I got some pumpkin pie. I know the kids love pumpkin pie, so I'm gonna hang on to that one for this evening when everybody comes home and we can have a pumpkin pie enjoyment extravaganza kind of a thing. And I'll just eat a small strip. Sourdough bread, because I like sourdough, although not too many. I think maybe Will might eat the sourdough too, but mostly everybody else likes the whole grains and the wheat breads. So I got one of those too. So we've got plenty of bread for the week, for, you know, all the kids' lunches and for our snacking and stuff. I'm going to make myself a sandwich before I head out to the wilderness park here. That sandwich is going to be based around turkey. Turkey breast, sliced turkey breast, which was not on sale today because people are going to buy it, right? So, turkey breast. I'm going to probably put a slice of Swiss cheese in there, okay? Got some Swiss cheese. And in addition to that, the sauce that's on there is going to be a junk food, sugary cranberry jelly. Bought a couple of cans of that because you can never have too much canned cranberry jelly around the house. So that's going to be my Thanksgiving lunch for today. However, I think we're going to have turkey sandwiches going for Chelsea and I's lunches at least a couple of times during the week. And so in addition to the sandwiches, I got a big old yam that I can cook up, and we can have yams with our lunches this week too, yam slices. I also, the other day, because we had the freeze, everybody's pulling their tomatoes, and so I was given a bunch of tomatoes. I've got a good half a dozen of big tomatoes in the fridge. I'm afraid they're gonna go bad before I have time to use them. And so I decided I'm gonna make myself a homemade fresh salsa to eat this week. And so I bought a bag of Tostito Golds, you know, to go along with it. And so I've already got the tomatoes. In addition to the tomatoes, I have some onions. These were on sale. They're just medium yellow onions, basically. So I'm gonna put some onions in there. Of course, a bell pepper, you know, just give it that little bit of that kind of pepper flavor. But then we get into the jalapeno too. We get into the habanero too. So it's gonna be a spicy, hot, and fresh salsa that I'll make. Don't know if I'll make that today or later on in the week, but right now I'm gonna make myself a sandwich quick, bag it, head out to the wilderness park, and I'll have lunch somewhere out there. Yeah, so that bench is right on the shelf behind me, overlooking the river, and I haven't gone to kind of scope it out yet. going to on my way back down. I just figured since I'm halfway up the coulee slope and starting to get warm and taking off layers, I'm already down to my Slurpee shirt. It's not a paid advertisement, by the way. Might as well continue up the trail here. I think this is an old equestrian trail, probably going up this way. Might have even been a road at one time. There's even places around here where you can find old wagon roads, but certainly old access roads and old railroads. But this was carved out at one time for sure. So probably it was a road, you know, either for automobiles a couple decades past or horses probably after that. Anyway, I want to go up here and see what the view is from the top, and then we'll go look at the river. Well, that's where the Jeep is parked down there. So it's probably possible for me to begin my walks if I wanted to, hiking up this slope first and coming down onto the bench for the view of the river. Got this weird remains of a bunch of old cinder block stuff here. Don't know what that's about. I want to get up on this ridge over there. It's really the high point that's going to let me see kind of what's south and north of here. So I think I'm going to get up on that ridge and look at the view. Just making my way up, I've come across this scene. It's kind of sliding down off of the coulee rim. May have been on what was the coulee rim at one time. But here we have a cairn, some kind of a cairn of stones. And this I've come to recognize as, you know, this is human artifice, right? This is it's a cairn of stones that's put here for a purpose. It's very grown over, so it's, you know, pretty much impossible to see maybe what it was, but almost up on the slope now where we should be able to get the good bird's eye view. I can't really wait for this terrain to blossom out again next spring. You know, I'm sure I know most of the plants that are on these slopes, but it'll be fun to kind of take inventory of this new place for me and figure out where all my local resources are, that kind of thing. Here we have a mountain bluebird nest stamped with the MB for mountain bluebird. A lot of times other birds use it. Wrens and starlings love it. All right. What do we got? Oh yeah, good view of the next coulee valley over. Fairly isolated place. The neighborhoods are over that way. You can see high level bridge in the distance, perhaps, and that's where Spopikami is. So you can kind of get your bearings from my familiar haunts over to here. There is a lot of good isolated area out here for wildlife and stuff. I don't know why the rattlesnake population is not larger out this way, but it doesn't seem to be. They like to be on the west side for whatever reason. I know we got a lot of bull snakes over here, so the lore is that bull snakes and rattlesnakes don't get along. You know, herpetologists say it's probably not the reason why they're not here, but I don't know. I'll come into the edge. Hopefully we'll get a good view of something here. Might not even go to that bench after all. I can see it down there. I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna get a better look at what's going on the river than I would off of that bench. I can see out that way is Penaquim Park. Binakoyim is what the real name is in Blackfoot, and wastewater treatment center and such. All positioned nicely just upstream from here. I'll go down to the river and take a look. Well, here we are, an awesome view of the river. Wouldn't trade it for anything, and seems as good a place as any to imbibe in my Thanksgiving meal. My turkey sandwich. It's going down the pipe. Number one, looking along the river here, really not seeing any migrating waterfowl. I'm surprised. Thought there'd be some stopped off here, but it's pretty quiet. Not quite sure where I'm going to go from here, but no doubt downhill somewhere. Yeah, coming down off of that ridge, I think the roast turkey got the best of me. Just seeing this shady forest, and I thought, well, I want to go in there and take my Thanksgiving post-turkey dinner nap. Tired, and it looks pretty comfortable in there. I picked this log in an area where I know that there's great horned owls hanging around usually, and I figured, well, I'll just lay on my back on the log, maybe close my eyes, and when I look up, maybe the great horned owl will be there. But you know what? Logs are not very comfortable as far as sleeping goes. The forest floor, on the other hand, is this great big bed of cushy grass, and yeah, there's spiders and ticks and other things in there, but I was happy to just lay out on the forest floor, close my eyes for 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know if I actually snoozed at all yet. I might I might go back to doing that. Problem was, I closed my eyes for a bit, and then when I opened up again, I picked up my phone and I was checking messages on the phone, and I heard this voice from behind me. Are you okay? One of our local naturalists and photographers had come through this area of the forest here, looking specifically to take pictures of the owls that I was interested in. And I think he'd been taking pictures of the male owl who was perched not far from me, unbeknownst to me. So when I woke up and assured him that I was okay, he showed me where the owl was perched. And he asked me about my toe, someone that follows the channel, so gave me a little look at my broken toe. Let him know that I feel very uncomfortable out here with the shoes and all of that, but it's like a cast to me, but so be it. Anyway, Napus interruptus on my Thanksgiving. That's what you get for sleeping in a public park. Even though I really didn't expect to run into anybody out here in the middle of the forest, in a place where probably 5 or 6 people total are going to visit all day. You know, this area. Anyway, a thought occurred to me. I spend a lot of time off trails. Like, as far as navigating down here goes, and my choosing my plan, you know, which direction I'm gonna head today, given that there was no waterfowl on the river to attract me to you know, something going on out that way. I just like to wander, you know, on and off the official trails and see where it takes me. I think that as far as trails go, I think that the modern culture has lost a lot of knowledge and appreciation. Oh, there's 5 or 6 people now. Okay, I guess I was wrong. Maybe there'll be a dozen people visit here today. And they're on the trail. But yeah, I feel like this modern culture has lost a lot of knowledge around what trails are, because they're not just, you know, for taking you from point A to point B and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's certainly one of their aspects of the trail, right? Get you to where you're going and get you there, hopefully with the least resistance possible, right? Because that's what trails are for. You don't have to bushwhack. There's already a trail, you know? That's the idea in part. But there's other concepts and aspects of trails. Indigenous concepts around trails. Like the late Alan Pard told me that whenever you're crossing, you know, the prairie or something, and you leave the trail, like he had taught me, anytime you're crossing a body of water, a river, a stream, something like that, you make an offering to the Soita peaks, the underwater people, you know, because you're going into their environment and you're going to screw things up a little bit as you cross, and you don't want them taking it out on you, you know. But he told me the same applies really if you're getting off trail and crossing even the prairie. You should make an offering, and because you're going to mess things up, you know, for the animals that's environment whose homes and stuff you're trotting through, including everything right down to the insects. So there's a respect for the trails, not only being the path of least resistance for me, but also being the path of least destruction. That I'm going to destroy less of what belongs to others if I follow the trails. Now, you might notice I'm walking off of the human trails. That's because the human trails have become something that they never were, which is these big, wide, you know, pathways that are actually, they do harm to the animals. You know, they make them exposed in ways that they were never exposed before. And they, you know, a good trail, especially if it's been turned into a super highway, you know, take highway 1 and 2, or it's highway 2, you know, through Alberta. That's the old North Trail, the old, you know, what was called the old North Trail when Walter McClintock came through at the end of the 1800s. An old Indian trail been turned into a super highway. Yeah, that's a major obstacle for animals now, you know, but it's still the human passage. So, you know, as I wander, I usually try to stay to, if I can find a deer trail or something like that, so I do less impact, but I don't feel like I'm in any way, you know, committed to the cultural enterprise, I should say. It's not even human, it's just like the cultural enterprise of defining these wide paths that are going to restrict what I might have access to and might see and might learn out here. Anyway, just some thoughts on trails. I'm still shopping around a little bit, although I'm starting to wake up a little bit. I'm shopping around for a new nap place. We'll see if that happens or not. Probably not. How freaking gorgeous is it out here? It's like the river runs through it. It's times like this I wish I had like a fly rod and maybe a fishing license. Because I should be paying the government if I'm taking anything from the wilds. Yeah, just beautiful out here on the river's edge. I'm gonna shut up and enjoy it. figured I'd wade out here onto the big gravel bar river island for a couple of reasons, at least, maybe more. But primarily, one thing was I wanted to know what this plant was back here behind me, this kind of golden, looks like short grass from a distance, you know. I was curious what was that, and I feel a little bit foolish now having crossed the river to it, because it is a plant that I know I have looked at and photographed and identified probably half a dozen times in the past, maybe more, under very similar circumstances, where I notice it in this season as it's kind of turning its own hue of gold, and so I've gone to my reference library. I've come up with names for it very easily, whatever its name is, but but can I remember that name? No. And do I have access to my reference library anymore? No. I do have the Nature Center in their library though, so I'll have to look it up again, find out its real name, but let's just say it's the micro rush for the moment. The other reason I thought I'd come out here to the river island is to pick out my rock for this hike. Now, this is something I don't think I've talked about on video before, but when Justine was working at Tim Hortons at the university, before even her current job that she's held for a couple of years at JISC, yeah, while she was working at the university, I'd go pick her up in the evening, and a lot of times I'd take a walk down to the river, down by Rust Rock Cathedral, that architectural, that art piece in the river bottom below the university, and I would pick up one of these black rocks with white crystals. There's a bunch of them here. I'll pick one up so you can see it as I'm talking about it. Hey, pick up one of these bad boys. Now, I first became familiar with this species of rock, whose name I don't know either, but it doesn't, you know, in this case, at least I'm always recognizing them, even if I don't know their name. You know, to me, learning a name is important, primarily so that you're paying attention to, you know, that being, right? And if you don't have a name for it, you generally don't pay attention. I do pay attention to these guys because there's an association that I have to them in my mind, and that is something that Jerry Potts of Piikani showed me. He would collect these in much bigger form, like bowling ball size, sometimes up in the, what do they call it? The Castle Mountain area, you know, up toward the Crow's Nest Pass. I guess this is where these rocks originally hail from. I don't know if they're volcanic stone or what. I'm not a geologist at all, so I don't know hardly anything about rocks. Like, I can distinguish between an agate and jasper and obsidian and stuff that people have produced a lot of technologies with, and that's why I recognize this too, for the same reasons people use it. So Jerry Potts uses them for sweats because when you heat them up, they don't explode on you. You know, you occasionally get that with other rocks, and they definitely break up in the context of the sweat. I mean, even in the beginning of a sweat ceremony, if you're doing it the Blackfoot way, you cover up with your blanket for the first for the first 4 ladles of water onto the rocks, because those rocks could explode and send like red hot lava like shrapnel, you know, all over the participants. But these rocks, they don't do that. They don't break like that. They never explode. And so I also think, you know, by the time that they tumble downstream to Lethbridge, these rocks are the perfect cooking stones. And I would bet you almost anything that this is the stones that people would use in the past to heat up and throw into, you know, a stew, something like that, to get it boiling, because you didn't have, you know, metal kettles that you can hang over a fire, right? So you use stone, you heat it up, you have a kind of a rawhide vessel with your soup and stuff in there, and you throw your hot stones, mix them around quick, instantly boils the stuff, you know, or brings it close to, and that's how you heat up your food, right? In the past. So when I was working for the Hupa tribe from California, they showed me that along their river, the stones that they gather for cooking with, which they still use today, are the bouncy stones. You know, you can't, like, you could see them visually if you were a trained Hupa, but an outsider, like, I couldn't tell the difference between the stones looking at them. But they showed me that if you bounce them, you have to try them out, lay one in your palm, and then bring another one maybe a foot over top of it, drop it down on the one. If it just clinks off of it, that's not a good fire rock. But if it bounces, hey, if it has some bounce off of there, there's a certain sound with that too, then you know, oh yeah, that one's gonna hold up to the heat. So they would use that one. Here, I think this is your stone, okay? And so I've made a practice ever since, like I say, Justine was working at Tim Hortons. So it's probably been maybe even 4 years, 5 years of this practice now, where if I'm out for a walk, I'll often, not always, but often, pick up one of these stones, bring it home with me, lay it down by the front door, you know, in the planter or what have you. So if you go to Mahoney's house, unless she's chucked them in Heritage, you're going to see a bunch of these stones. At the new place that Chelsea and I are staying, there's already a collection of these growing. I only allow myself to take one per hike, but my idea is that, you know, someday in the future, if you go visit the places where Ryan's lived, you're going to see these black stones in good numbers, and each one of those you're going to know is one of these hikes through the coulee that I took, studying, learning, training. Yeah, so just hanging out with the spiders here in the brome grass on the savanna, kind of waiting for human traffic to clear out before I might make my way onto the main trail and back toward the parking lot. I've got my rock, I'm going home. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon now. It's been a long day of walking around for me. I could stay out here, but I think it's probably time I just head her in. Not much else that I've noticed since leaving the river, except that I've kind of been inspired looking at all the different, like, reed canary grasses and the dried remains of the different crested wheatgrass, even this brome, you know, and some of the different colors. I'm kind of thinking it might be a cool project if I have the kids tomorrow, which I believe I do. But if that's the case, I might bring them down here and try to make kind of a seasonal wreath with some of the drying and dead plants of this past summer. Might be a cool project, hey? See if we can make it all from materials down here. No tools or materials brought in, you know? No wires, no string, you know? Use the real deal. We'll see. Anyway, I think that's about it. Head her back home. Too many people down here for me now. Oh, the poly boy. My big poly boy. Oh, yeah, daddy's home.